According to Mark, if you will allow me this morning, I just want to preach from the simple subject, it's healing time. Oh, come on, I don't know who you're sitting next to, but why don't you go ahead and turn to a stranger, to somebody you don't know. Say, neighbor, I don't know what you've been through, but it's healing time. And turn to the next person, tell them, neighbor, it's your time to be healed. Oh, I feel God's presence all right. It's healing time. This morning, Mount Zion, I come to you, just want to let you know that the God we serve a mighty God, but the God that we serve is a God that desires to see us healthy and made whole. He wants to see us healthy physically, spiritually, and emotionally. And so this morning, maybe there's somebody here this morning that has come to the house of God in need of a healing. I don't know what area you may be sick in, but I come to declare this morning that the God we serve is a God that can heal. So this morning, if you will, just pray with me as we look at the gospel according to the Mark, the gospel writer. Mark this morning, he's going to give us a few lessons and I'll be out your way. We're just going to look at a couple of lessons on how to receive a healing. Are you praying with me, church? Here in verse 46, Mark starts us off with the account of Jesus' ministry. He starts in verse 46 and says, now they came to Jericho. As he, speaking of Jesus, went out of Jericho with his disciples and a great multitude. Blind Bartimaeus, the son of Timaeus, sat by the road begging. Can I stop right there this morning, church? One of the things I've noticed here is that Mark demonstrates the ministry of Jesus. Jesus, customarily, he would go to each town and do what his Father ordained him to do. He would enter the town and he would talk with the people. He would teach the people and he would make sure whatever healing or deliverance that was needed, he would give it. But Mark does not tell us what Jesus did in Jericho. Notice now, Mark only tells us that he came into Jericho and then he leaves Jericho. And once Jesus begins to leave, all of a sudden somebody starts to cry out to him. I wonder if there's anybody in the house that ever felt like that before. Preachers, I know that you are in ministry and you're doing well, but can I tell you that ministry is a 24-hour service. We learn from Jesus, just when you think everything is done and finished and complete, somebody else still needs the Lord. Hey! And so he says Jesus is leaving the city and this blind man by the name of Bartimaeus begins to cry out. But notice what he does in the text. He says that Bartimaeus, the son of Timaeus, sat by the road begging. Let me give you my first point here on how to receive a healing as we look at is healing time. The first thing we want to notice about healing, Mark points out in verse number 46, the posture of healing. Look at the text with me again. It says, blind Bartimaeus, the son of Timaeus, sat by the road begging. Now, most theologians, some preachers would look at this text and they would probably conclude that blind Bartimaeus disqualified himself from getting to Jesus. Why would I say that? Because in the top of the verse it says that Jesus was leaving out of the city with two sets of people. One was his disciples and the other was a crowd that just needed to get to Jesus. But Bartimaeus, notice the posture that he takes. If he really needed Jesus, why would he not be in the moving or the going crowd? Why would he go somewhere separate, far from the sight of Jesus? I'm going to get you through this text. Just pray with me. The posture that Bartimaeus took is that the text says that he sat. When I look at that Greek word, sitting actually possesses the characteristics of God. What are those characteristics? One of his attributes is not only is he all-knowing, but also he's omniscient. He's everywhere at all times. And so Bartimaeus said, I know that I got a need. I know that I need some healing, but I'm not going to try to run with the moving crowd, because the faith that I have in Jesus is that I can be anywhere and the Lord can still walk out. The Lord can still meet my needs. Oh God, I wish I had a witness in here that when you're sitting down, sitting is a permanent position. It indicates that the individual is not worried, they're not upset. Sometimes, Pastor, I can be in the house and I can be thinking something and trying to figure some things out, and I get to pacing around sometimes. And those of you who've been married more than I have, you know how your wives are. Husband, you know how your wives are when you start pacing and looking and seeing what's wrong with you. And my wife, she'll say something to me, Pastor. She'll say, Price, stop pacing the floor. Sit down. When I looked at this text, and Bartimaeus showed me that the same thing Bartimaeus did is what we ought to do. Even though we got a bad economy, it's not a reason to stop pacing around. All you got to do is take your seat and allow the Lord to meet your needs. When you're sitting down, you are allowing the folk around you to be able to see how much you trust the Lord. And I come to encourage you today. I know the situation isn't corrected. I know the problems haven't been solved. But I want you to know that you serve a God that sees everything, that knows what you have need of. And he doesn't have to be right by your side. He can meet you right where you are. Oh God, that's why evangelism is so important. Because God can meet the crackhead in the crack building. That's why evangelism is so important. Because God can meet the prostitute while she's sliding down a stripper pole. That's why outreach is so important. Because you ain't got to be inside of the sanctuary in order to feel God's presence. And all you got to do is do like Bartimaeus and take your seat. Because if you take your seat, Jesus already knows what you need and he'll meet you right where you are. Yeah. He's omniscient. He's omnipresent. He knows all. He sees all. And this posture that Bartimaeus is taking, it is a spiritual posture, because what he does is he begins to isolate or separate himself from everyone else. Now I want to preach to some lonely, hurting individuals in the house this morning. Somebody here this morning, you feel like I do at times, when friends have left your side and you don't have the family members you had 2 years ago, and you don't have the crowd around you that you had 3 years ago. Well, I want you to know that it's not all good to be all by yourself, but don't be afraid when God separates you, because separation is not just bad or isolation, but I see that separated simply means holy. Because when I'm holy, I'm away from all the negativity. When I'm holy, I'm away from all the problems. When I'm holy, I'm separate. It's all right sometimes to not be in the moving crowd. It's all right to take a posture where you're not going to try to be on the choir. You're not going to try to be on the usher board, but you're going to allow God to meet your need and take good care of you right where you are. Somebody tell a neighbor, say, neighbor, stay where you are. And I'm just so glad that Bartimaeus didn't move to the left, because had he moved to the left, he might have missed the vision of God. Had he moved to the right, he might have missed the vision of God. And I want to tell you that posture, that spiritual posture, is actually a position. I don't know how many of you all, I love movies. And my wife, she got me on this new thing now. I love it. We ride up to Target and we get those good discount movies. I can't afford the movie theaters no more, Rev. My mother-in-law, she got us a good car for $50 and I came out with 3 left. I'm done with the